Good morning, students. In continuation with the chapter Organization of Data, today I am going to discuss with you frequency distribution. Well, children, if you all see on your screen, frequency distribution has been classified into 5 different categories. The first is exclusive series, then we have inclusive series, then we have open-end series, then cumulative frequency series, and the last one is mid-value frequency series. Now we are going to take each series one by one, and the very first one is the exclusive series. Now when we talk about exclusive series, these series are those series in which every class interval excludes item corresponding to its upper limit. That means in this series, the upper limit of one class interval is the lower limit of the next class interval. If you all can see on your screen, where you all can see a table where on one side we have marks, on the other side we have frequency, and the marks I have taken from 10 to 15, 15 to 20, 20 to 25, 25 to 30 and 30 to 35, where we have a frequency of 4, 5, 8, 5, 4. Now over exclusive series, what I mean to say, that the upper limit of one class interval, that is the upper limit of one class interval means in the first class interval, the lower limit is 10 and the upper limit is 15. So the upper limit of first class interval, that is 15, it is the lower limit of next class interval. If you all can see, 10 to 15, 15 is the upper limit, and this upper limit in the next class interval is the lower class interval, isn't it? 10 to 15 and then 15 to 20. And like this, we can see that in every class interval we have the upper limit of the previous one is the lower limit of the next one. Now the next series we have a inclusive series. When we talk about inclusive series are those series in which, let's say, in which that series which includes all items up to its upper limit. That means in this series, the upper limit of class interval does not repeat itself as a lower limit of the next class interval. There is always a gap between the upper limit of class interval and the lower limit of next class interval. If you see over there in the table, on one side again you have a marks, on the other side you have a frequency, and the marks goes on like 10 to 14. Now 14 is the upper limit of this class interval, but then this 14 is not repeated in the next class interval. The next class interval starts from the 15 to 19. The next starts from 20 to 24. Then this 24 is not repeated. The next is starting from 25 to 29, and then the last one is from 30 to 34. Now children, this shows that in inclusive, the upper limit is not repeated in the next class interval of the lowest limit as it was repeated in the exclusive series. Now here you have to remember a very important thing, that conversion of inclusive series into exclusive series. Children, this exclusive series is being used in, let's say, evaluating a certain data. So whenever you have an inclusive series, the very first thing you have to do is you have to convert that inclusive series into an exclusive series. But there is a method, there is a way to convert the inclusive series into exclusive. So there are two things which you have to remember while you convert an inclusive series to exclusive. The first one is find the difference between the upper limit of class interval and the lower limit of next class interval. That means that if you see the upper limit, if you see on your screen, the upper limit of the first class interval is 14 and the lower limit of next class interval is 15. So what you have to do, you have to find the difference between two. So 15 minus 14 comes to 1. Now the next thing is half of this 1, that is half of the difference, is added to the upper limit of class interval and half is subtracted from the lower limit of class interval. That means when you deduct Then 15 minus 14, when you minus 14 from 15, you get 1. Now this 1 has to be added in the upper limit of class interval. Okay, and it has to be deducted or subtracted from the lower limit of class interval. So children, if you see on the screen, your lower limit of the first class interval is 10. So from this 10, we have to deduct half. So if we deduct half, we get what? 9.5. And this 14, which is the upper limit of this class interval, in this 14 you have to add half. So if you add half, you get what? 14.5. So if you see on the screen, there I have drawn table where I have converted this inclusive series into exclusive, keeping in mind the class interval of 10 to 14, 15 to 19, 20 to 24, 25 to 29 and 30 to 34, where first class interval 10 to 14 has been converted to be as 9.5 to 14.5, then 14.5 to 19.5, then 19.5 to 24.5, then 24.5 to 29.5 and 29.5 to 34.5. So like this, your inclusive series has been converted into an exclusive series. Now if you see what is happening over here, your upper limit of first class interval is the lower limit of second class interval. Now it is in a proper series. So this is how we have converted the inclusive series into an exclusive series. Now the next comes the open-end series. When we talk about the open-end series, children, this is a series in which lower limit of the first class interval and the upper limit of the last class, let's say class interval, is missing. If you see on the table, I have drawn for you upper limit, isn't it? Over here if you see, on one side again you have marks, on the other side you have frequency, and in the first class interval, if you see the lower limit of the first class interval, it is missing, isn't it? I have written below 5. And if you see the last class interval, the upper limit of the last class interval is missing. I have written 20 and above. That means in this series, the lower class limit of the first class interval and the upper limit of the last class interval are missing. Instead, it is written less than, or you can say it is written more than. Now the next frequency series is a cumulative frequency series. Children, this is that series in which the frequencies are continuously added corresponding to each class interval in the series. That means that over here we need to convert this series into two different ways. Now if you see over here on this new screen, I have shown you a simple frequency series where on one side you have a class interval, that is 5 to 10, 10 to 15 until 25 to 30. On the other side you have a frequency, but then this is a simple frequency. Now if you have to convert this frequency, let's say, into a cumulative frequency, then there are two ways of converting it into a cumulative frequency. One is when cumulative frequency is expressed on the basis of upper limit of class interval. That means, for example, we write less than 10, less than 15 if our class interval is 5 to 10 or 10 to 15. That means if your class interval is 5 to 10 or 10 to 15, then you will be writing, when you convert it into a cumulative frequency, you will be writing less than 10, less than 15. And the another way is when cumulative frequency is expressed on the basis of lower limit, then what you do? Then in that condition, if your class interval is 5 to 10 and 10 to 15, so you will be writing more than 5 and more than 10. Now children, I have shown you here in the table also that how we do it, keeping in mind the same frequency table which I have drawn, simple frequency table. Keeping that frequency table in mind, this simple frequency has been converted into a cumulative frequency. If you see method 1 and method 2, both method I have shown over here. One side you have marks which is less than 10, then number of students. In simple frequency, number of student was 3. So as I told you, number of students is 3, so less than over here 10 That means less than 10 is how much? If you see 5 to 10 series, it is 3. Then less than 15, then what you will be doing? You will be adding the frequency, the previous frequency with the next one. So 3 plus 8 comes to 11. Less than 20, then 11 plus the 9, which is the frequency of less than 20. That comes to 20. Then again take the 20, and less than 20 the frequency given is 4. So 20 plus 4 is 24, and similarly 24 plus 4 is 28. Now the thing comes more than, then in condition of more than 5, what we do, we carry forward this 28, and then it comes, we deduct from here. More than 5, then more than 10 is 28 minus 3. Because more than 5 is 3 is the frequency, that comes to 25. Then more than 15, if we see, then the frequency is 8. So 25 minus 8 is 70. More than 20, frequency is 9. Then 70 minus 9, that comes to 8. And more than 25, your frequency is 4. So 8 minus 4, that comes to 4. So children, these are two ways through which we can express, or we can convert the simple frequency into let's say a cumulative frequency series. And the last one is a mid value frequency series, are those series in which we have mid values of class interval, and we change these mid values into a class interval. If you see on your screen, I have given you mid value and frequency 5, 15, 25, 35, 45, and then we have a table where we are converting this mid values into class interval. So there is a formula like lower limit is L1, where m minus 1 upon 2 is I. M is mid value, I is difference between mid value, L1 lower limit, L2 upper limit. So what we have done it, L1 equals to, means if you have to take out class interval, so what will be doing it? You will be taking this formula 5 and then 10 upon 2. If we talk about this 10 upon 2, then if you see over here how we are able to do this, what we are doing it, first mutual difference between mid values determine, mean what is the difference between the mid values, and then secondly the difference so obtained is reduced to half. If you see the difference between the mid value, it is of how much? 10, and if the half of 10 is how much? 5. So 5 in the lower limit you are going to deduct, and 5 you are going to add. So that comes how? 0 to 10, then 10 to 20, then 20 to 30, 30 to 40, and 40 to 50. So this is another way how we can find the class interval if the mid value frequencies are given to us, keeping in mind the formula to find the difference between the two mid values. Like 5 and 15 difference is 10, and then 10 is been halved, half of it has been added. 5 minus 10 upon 2, that comes to 0, and half of it has been added. 5 plus 10 upon 2, that comes to 10. So we got the class interval of 0 to 10. Similarly like this, 10 to 20, 20 to 30, and so on. Thank you.